Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a beautiful day. It's wonderful to see you all. My name is Laura, and I am a certified meditation teacher with the Buddhist Studies Institute. And I am so pleased to be part of this live stream of practice that we've been doing during this 100 days leading up to Losar, which we are now finally have arrived into the new year. So it's been a pleasure to be offering these meditations each day. We hope you'll continue to join us. And this is a project that is led by Pema Khandra Rinpoche and the Buddhist Studies Institute. So thanks for being here. Today for our meditation practice, I'll lead us in about 20 some minutes or so of a calm abiding Shine practice. And we will start and end with our opening and closing prayers. And then afterwards, I will share one of the 5 Buddhist precepts so that we can integrate this study of ethics with our practice. So we'll do that at the end. And then for those members who are joining us here on Zoom, I invite you to stick around if you'd like to have a few minutes of Dharma conversation at the end or ask any questions. I'd be delighted to have you stay. So again, thank you so much for being here. Let's go ahead now and let's get into our posture that will be most supportive for practice. So if you're seated in a chair, you can either sit cross-legged or with feet flat on the floor, whatever works best for you and your body for today. If you're seated on the floor, just hips a little higher than the knees. We can be seated in a way that our hips are elevated and then the palms are resting in the lap, either palms down, palms up, or in this gesture of equanimity with our palms one on top of the other and then thumbs just gently touching, resting right in the lap. We can go ahead and roll the shoulders back and down a couple times, just so we know that we're getting that nice, broad and open feeling across the chest. Probably by now your spine has naturally come into a bit more alignment, but we can just double check by pretending there's that string pulling up from the crown of the head that elongates the spine and also drops the chin a little bit. So that chin is nice and tucked. The jaw is relaxed. So the top and bottom jaw are separated slightly, and the tongue is resting right behind the front palate. Just the tip of the tongue can touch the teeth right there. And then letting that jaw be relaxed, we can then encourage the gaze to be relaxed. So we are practicing with eyes open, but we want to have a nice gentle gaze. We're not trying to stare at anything specifically, just keeping a nice relaxed gaze. If you're not familiar with this type of practice, keeping the eyes open is just another way that we can both integrate our practice with the waking eye world, and also that we can notice if our attention has wandered, because we might notice that our gaze wanders away. And that can be information for us that the mind has probably wandered with it. So if we notice that our eyes have moved, just again, coming back and settling into this moment. So let's go ahead and bring our hands together at heart center in that prayer position as we share in the opening prayers, and I'll first invoke the mantra of this lineage. Omeya Enza Guru, hey, my city home. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. I take refuge in the Lama, Yidam, and Khandro. I take refuge in the channels, winds, centers, and their nature, the bodhicitta. I take refuge in complete openness, lucid presence, and compassion. Ho, mesmerized by the sheer variety of appearances, which are like the illusory reflections of the moon in water. Beings wander endlessly astray in samsara's vicious cycle. In order that they may find comfort and ease in the luminosity and all-pervading space of the true nature of their minds, they generate the immeasurable love, compassion, joy, and equanimity of the awakened mind, the heart of bodhicitta. Sentient beings are numberless. I train in order to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I train in order to transform them. Reality is boundless. I train in order to realize it. The awakened way is unsurpassable. I train in order to embody it. Now bringing our hands back into our meditative posture. And having that nice 7-point posture now all set, let's start by doing a somatic practice of double exhale. So we'll go ahead and inhale. And then exhale. And at the bottom of the exhale, forcing out any stale air, a second exhale, and inhaling again. And exhaling. That double exhale one more time on your own. Excellent. And for our calm abiding practice today, we'll go ahead and practice with the method of Om Ahum. And so we'll just say this mantra silently to ourselves, aligning it with our breathing pattern. So silently in our mind on the inhale, saying Om. And then in that silent gap, in that space between the inhale and the exhale, Ah. And then on the exhale, Hum. And then again, there's a silent space before the next inhalation arises. So really applying mindfulness there. Look in that gap in between. You can imagine the breath like a box that you're drawing. Om on the inhale. Ah, in that gap. Hum. In the exhale. Mindful awareness right there in that gap. And so we'll practice in this way of the Om Ahum, saying it silently to ourselves for the remainder of our practice time. And I'll come in and I'll remind you maybe a few times in case your mind wanders, just to come back to this Om, Ah, and Hum. And if you notice, before I remind you that you've forgotten the mantra, that you've gotten spacey, tired, it's no problem. We can always begin fresh in this moment. So just coming back from wherever you've been to Om, Ah, Hum. And just continuing to apply the method of saying Om, Ah, and Hum silently with each inhale, space, and exhale, space. And now for the final few minutes of practice, I invite you to drop the method. Just allowing the body and mind to rest in a natural state of awareness, noticing body, noticing mind. Very good. Let's go ahead and seal this practice with a double exhale. Inhaling through the nostrils and exhaling through the nostrils, that double exhale at the bottom. And again. And one last time. Wonderful. And now let's bring our hands together so we can dedicate the merits of this practice. May the teachings of the Buddha spread and flourish. May all sentient beings be happy and joyful. May we practice the Dharma day and night, and may the benefits for self and others be fully accomplished. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. It's so wonderful to have you here. And now we will share one of the 5 Buddhist precepts. And let me go ahead and choose one that we're going to talk about today. So I think today, let's talk about avoiding false speech, which is the 4th precept, which says, abandon false speech. I avoid taking refuge in the lie of dualism, ever advancing towards less manipulative, self-protective, deceptive speech. I refrain from using my speech for rationalizing neurotic views and behavior. I refrain from bigoted, sectarian, racist, sexist, judgmental, and arrogant speech that condemns others. I avoid harsh speech, gossip, and useless chatter. I develop increasing capacity for deep listening and authentic communication. I train my speech and emotions in order to use speech with nonviolence, empathy, sensitivity, and kindness. I use kind speech to set appropriate boundaries and respect others' boundaries in calmness and clarity. I respect confidentiality and respect the disclosures of others. I refrain from offering unsolicited advice. I recognize that silence or withholding can be a misuse of speech. I speak up to prevent others from being harmed by racism, sexism, abuse, and other forms of domination. And that was the fourth precept of abandoning false speech. Well, thank you, everyone. And for all of our members, I invite you to join us tonight for Losar. Our members' Losar celebration for the Tibetan New Year is tonight. I hope to see you there. Thank you for joining us. If you're coming on the live stream, thank you for watching, and we hope you'll join us again soon.